Hey friends, I'm Sakei, and today we're going to continue on our mission to build the Animal Crossing New Horizons database using Tailwind CSS and AlpineJS, and of course the Animal Crossing API. So in the last video, we created this list of villagers that pulls in the data from the API. It pulls in their images, their name, the colors, and whatnot, but it was pre-static. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't click on them and learn more about them. And so in today's video, we're actually going to make these interactive. And if we click on these, we'll actually be able to open the sidebar here. It'll have a nice move-in animation, and it'll dynamically pull in the data of whichever villager we click on here. We're not creating a sidebar for each individual villager. We're just populating it with the data dynamically. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so let's think a little bit about what we actually need to do here. So there are a couple things that need to happen. So when I click on a card, we need to open a sidebar, and this sidebar needs to be populated with all of the data from the villager that I just clicked on. Then when I hit close here or click outside of this card, we want all of this to disappear. So as I mentioned, I already have this built out. So if we head back to our code here, you can see that our sidebar is built here using Tailwind. It's fixed to the right of the screen. It takes up about half of the screen. And below that, we have an overlay. This is just this like dark brown thing in the background that lets users know that this is open and they should focus their attention on the sidebar. And typically users expect that if they click on this, the sidebar will close. So obviously we'll make that happen. So as I mentioned, we need to keep track of a couple of things. First, we need to know if the sidebar is open. And next we need to know who the current villager is. Who is the villager that I just clicked on? So you'll remember this from the last video. In our data object, we are now going to add a new property called isOpen. This is going to be a Boolean, and by default, it's going to be false. Then we're going to add another key here called current villager, and this is going to hold the villager that I've just clicked on, which by default is just going to be an empty object. I haven't selected any villager off the bat. So now we need some way to actually update this, right? If we go back into our index.html, just like last time, we are using this data.js script. And in this data.js script, we have access to villagers, which get populated here, and then these two properties. So now we need a function to actually update that when we click on something. But before we do that, just to make sure everything is working, we're gonna go down and we're gonna hide our sidebar. So using that xshow directive that we learned about in the last video, we're going to do xshow only when isOpen equals false. When isOpen equals true, which as a shorthand, we can just write xshow when isOpen. Now we can see that the sidebar is gone, and we'll just do the same for our overlay here. So xshow equals false. And now we're just going to do the same thing for the overlay in the background. So we'll go down here and just like that, xshow when isOpen. Now we can see that our overlay is gone again. And now if we go into our data and change isOpen to true, okay, this isn't opened, which makes me think, yeah, I think this needs to be data.isOpen. Perfect. Changes to data.isOpen. And now we see the sidebar is open. And if we go back into data and change this to false, perfect. It's not open anymore. Now that we have this, we need a function that's actually going to change this from false to true. So in a new file here, I'm going to say sidebar.js, and in sidebar.js, we'll create a new function called handleClick, arrow function. And the first thing we want to do is give it a couple of arguments. So it's going to take a data and a villager. Data is always going to be the data that we pass in, and villager is going to be the current villager. So first, we want to take this data and set the data.isOpen to true. So data.isOpen is going to become true every time we click on a card. Then we want to set data.currentVillager to be the villager that we pass in here. So now that we have this pretty basic function, we're going to actually pull it into our HTML file here. So we'll do a new script where the source is our sidebar.js, which now gives us access to that function. What we're going to do is within each of our cards, which is this div right here, we're going to create a new onClick handler. And the way we do that with Alpine is we can just use the @ shorthand and right click. And then we'll say that on click, we should use the handle click function where data is data and villager is villager. So data is going to be just the data object from here. And then villager is going to be the current villager that we're iterating over. So let's go ahead and test that out. We'll see that if I click on this, we get the sidebar opening as we would expect, but of course, nothing is happening, and it doesn't matter what villager I click on, none of the data is actually the correct data. So the first thing we'll do is to make this close. So if I go ahead and find the close button here, so our close button will add a new onClick handler. And when we click it, we just want to set data.isOpen to be false. Let's try that out. Awesome. So if I hit close, it's setting that property to false, which means that the sidebar is closing. But you'll notice that if I click away, if I click outside of the sidebar, right, as we mentioned, we expect that when we click on anywhere outside of it, we want it to close. So an easy way to do that is in the sidebar, we have access to a cool modifier thanks to AlpineJS. So we can say that when we click outside, so when we click on the screen outside of this element, do something, which in this case is of course setting data is open to be false. So let's give that a shot, open this, and if I click outside, we're setting that variable to false, thus closing the sidebar. And just for good measure and for safety, we can make sure that when we click this overlay, we are also setting data.isOpen to false. You don't have to do this. I might actually slow the app down, but it's so minimal that I don't think it really matters. And this is obviously just another approach. So you could go with either this or the click outside. Either of those work. Doesn't really matter. And now we'll go back, just check that everything is working. Perfect. Now, if I click on this, this doesn't look great, right? It's just kind of appearing out of nowhere. It's not how we would expect this to behave really. So we want to make this animate and slide in from the right, and also make this overlay in the background fade in. And to do that, we're going to use Alpine's X transition directive. So all we need to do is in our sidebar, we need to write X transition, and then we'll start to set some properties. So let's go in here and quickly take a look at their transition directive. You can see that transition has a bunch of properties. We have enter, enter start, enter end, and then we have leave, leave start, and leave end. You can learn all about what those mean down here in the descriptions. I will just tell you kind of how I've done it, and you can read more about it here. For now, I'll just paste in some of the stuff that I've written before. So we have X transition enter, which is kind of like the initial state of this animation. So we're saying that we want to animate the transition, and we want ease gentle, which we'll talk about in a second, and a duration of 300. Then we have our start. So at the very beginning, we're going to translate on the x-axis full, so 100%, so it's completely off the screen. And then at the end of this, we want it to be at an x translation of 0, so exactly where we started. And then we do the same in reverse. So the transition leave, we are also animating transition. We're also using the ease gentle, and we're also using a duration of 300. At the start, we're going to translate by 0, so it's where we left it. And at the end, we want the translation to be full, so 100% fully off screen. I'm going to hit save and go ahead and test this out. And we see pretty nicely it moves in. Obviously the background is happening instantly, so we want to change that. So let's go down here and add X transition directives for the background as well. And I'm just going to paste in transitions that I've already set out. These are very similar. You just see that we're doing basically the same thing, but we're starting at an opacity of 0 and ending at an opacity of 75, and vice versa here on the way out. And now if I hit this, our overlay in the background fades in nicely. There is one thing though, this ease gentle is actually something that doesn't exist in here by default. It's the custom animation that we set up here. This is a custom Bezier curve that we've set out here in Figma. And so we can take this custom Bezier, copy the value, and add it to our Tailwind config. So all we need to do to add this is to add a new property here in our extend object. It's going to be transition timing function. And this is how you add more eases to Tailwind. And of course, we are calling it gentle. And we just need to add in our cubic Bezier here that we copied from Figma. And now we have access to this ease gentle easing curve in our file. And you'll notice here that it's easing in nicely, just as it does in our Figma designs. Perfect. So the last thing we need to do is actually fill this in with the correct information. So remember that our handle click function is not only setting our data to be true, but it's also setting our current villager to be this villager here. And so all we need to do is go into the sidebar, which is down here. And using some of the stuff that we learned in the last video, we're just gonna replace all of that data with, instead of villager, the current villager. So you remember we were using xtext to pull in properties from each villager last video. So villager.species, villager.personality, and essentially we're going to do the same, but just replace it with current villager instead of villager. So if we go to the sidebar again, let's find one of our first items as an example, our source here. So rather than source, we're going to add a colon here, and instead of the static link, we're going to make it data.currentVillager .image URI. Let's give that a shot. If we go in here and open Antonio, we see Antonio's image. If we open Snooty, we see her image. Kurt, we see his image, and so on. So again, I'm not going to show you this because ideally you've watched the last two videos and you understand how to pull in data from an API using Alpine. So I'm just going to paste in what I've already written, and you can see that for species, I'm using xtext and that same pattern. So data.currentVillager.species. For the personality, we have data current villager personality. And then at the bottom here, we have data current villager and their Japanese name to add that little flare at the bottom. So if I hit save and head back here, we can now see that every time I click a villager, it's setting the variable to true, so the sidebar opens, and it's also setting the current villager to Serrano or whatever villager I'm clicking on and populating all of that data as we just saw. In here, we have Serrano, we have his catchphrase or his saying, birthday, gender, hobby, and his Japanese name. All of this is updating dynamically. Try with Snooty, different birthday, different gender, hobby, personality, and so on. I can scroll all the way down, find some other cute villagers. Very cute, and it's all working. Oh, I like this one. So shiny, very pretty. And that's all. We now have a fully functioning, so to speak, app that pulls in all of this data from the API. It loads a bunch of villagers. It allows us to click into them and learn more information that we're also pulling in from this API. Of course, you could take this much further. We could add a search bar on top. We could add some filtering. We could add pagination, as I mentioned. But I think for now, in the purposes of this larger multi-part tutorial, this is great. It's exactly what we set out to do, and it matches our designs in Figma as we'd expect. So that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this series. I hope you learned something and were able to follow along. As always, you can get all of the files, all of the code, and all of my working files in general on my Patreon. If you did enjoy this, please leave a like on the video and consider subscribing so that you can get some updates when I put more videos up. And with that said, really hope you enjoyed this. Hope to see you in the next one. And until then, happy designing.